Hey everybody, welcome to ROA Off-Road. I have an awesome guest with me. I have James here from Kimberley, and James is actually the owner of Kimberley Kampers, and we're going to be going over a brand new unit here in the US. This is the Kube. So James, tell us the inspiration behind this unit, why you created it.
Sure. Thanks, Josh. So what we've got here is the new Kimberley Kube. We've had this out in Australia for about a year. This is the release of it into the American market. The inspiration behind this whole thing here was in our whole product range, we've actually moved away from the canvas. So traditionally for 32 years, we've been building the canvas camper, the rear fold. We'd seen in the market that's like camping in more inclement weather, particularly here in the States. So what we wanted to do was something that gets our customers into the market. So we're trying to attract a younger generation into the brand. We know that we're a brand that is multiple owners, so we can generally keep a customer for the lifetime of their camping experience. This was like an entry-level model, somebody that's progressed from either swags or roof tents, particularly roof tents, or one of those smaller trailers with a tent on it. But we wanted super comfortable, super lightweight, very, very durable off-road, but something that was still off-grid. What we've got here is it's hard-sided. It was sort of, we're wondering if we've created a whole new category here.
Yeah.
What we've got is we've got our take on a teardrop camper.
Right.
But when we did the research into that teardrop camper market, a lot of them were sort of like saying, you step through the door into your bed straight away. And then once we progressed to, okay, well, how do we get away from that?
Yeah.
Then it was a case of, okay, well, if the weather's that bad, we want to sit inside and socialize and, either play cards or read or work typically. So what we've got is we've got a lot of customers that are actually working on the road, getting into these units, nice, compact, small, easy, super, super easy to tow, but it's got all the facilities that all of the rest of them have as well.
Why don't you show us some of the unique features? Show us what makes this trailer so unique.
Absolutely. So we'll start just by closing that door there. So if you take a look at the shape of the Kube, what we wanted to do was make it probably one of the most aerodynamic units in the market.
Yeah.
So when we were taking a look at it, Kimberley has a very, very distinct look and feel about it.
Yes.
And on that there, we wanted to take our product into a next generation. We've been doing the Kimberley Caravan for about 18, 19 years now. And it was always like, one of the industry leaders in shape and how it all came together. But we wanted to take that to like another 2 or 3 pegs further forward. So the shape that we worked with some aeronautical engineers that were actually in America. It was an American guy that helped us with the design and the shape, etc. And all of that there, so right the way from the front, but it's not just the front and the aerodynamics as you're towing it along. A big part of it is the way we've designed the back.
Okay.
So these here have a drag. The reduction in the drag is by up to about 20% on a traditional square.
Do you want to show me?
Caravan? Sure.
Yes.
So as we go through here, what you'll notice is this whole shape at the back here. So it's tapered in on the top, on the bottom. The shapes that we've got here actually reduce the drag behind here, as I was saying, by up to 20%, which translates into about a 7 or 8% saving in fuel. And over the lifetime of a van, and particularly with the advent of electric vehicles coming on board and towing, we're trying to get as minimum drag as we can.
That wasn't something I had even thought of, was because of all the electric vehicles, the advantage you get with this kind of design. That's awesome.
It is, yeah. So in Australia, we've got probably about 3 or 4 customers so far with electric pickup trucks that have purchased our vans and have got into that sort of like market there and finding it super easy to tow, right?
Wow.
Tons of power and torque in the actual vehicle, but where it boils down to is as soon as they start towing, there's a huge reduction in capability and how long they can go out for. So when we've worked with this here, we've just gone, right, okay, well, let's get it the lightest possible. So at about 2,500 pounds.
It could be less, but based on how you option it, roughly 25 is what you can expect.
That's correct. So worked really, really hard on reducing the weight, but what we've done is we've sort of like kept some core Kimberley Kampers DNA, so KK DNA. So on that there, we've actually running exactly the same chassis that we've run on our camper trailers for 32 years. We're running the same chassis as what's on our Kimberley Caravan that's been tried and tested for a really, really long time. So with the hot dip galvanized chassis, so it's all laser cut interlocking. So once again, we're reducing the weight, increasing the strength in it. We're running the Kimberley independent trailing arm suspension with our own disc brakes on it. So we make our own vented disc brakes. We make our own brake calipers. And then it's electronic over hydraulic braking.
So for the US market, that's very unique.
Yeah.
We do not have a lot of campers out there that have disc brakes.
Okay.
That's very unique in the US. So that's very unique to Kimberley.
Yeah, cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so on the back of that there, and as a company and as a brand, we try and keep common parts throughout.
Yeah.
So the suspension on this actually carries our full-size cruisers.
Right.
So it's super massively over-engineered, but that's never harmed anybody, right?
Yeah, so the benefit of that is the capacity that this holds,
It does.
which you were saying is how much?
Up to 5,000 pounds.
We have a teardrop with a GVWR of almost 5,000.
Yeah,
That's insane.
It is.
That's insane.
It's huge, and I guess like you're only limited by what you can actually put inside.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end
yeah.
of the day. From this chassis upwards, what we go is we go to a single mold. It's almost a monocoque construction.
Okay.
Because this is actually bolted down. It's not quite the chassis, but it is bolted. The whole pod is bolted down onto the chassis.
Yeah.
So this whole top section here is a single mold with the floor bolted and glassed into the actual thing.
Making it one piece.
Making it one piece, yeah.
Yeah.
So potentially, so like this would, I guess if you got it deep enough, would float. And we're looking forward to testing that one day.
I was going to say, when are you going to test this?
Absolutely. You know, going back to some of the design features that we were looking at, when we were looking at the aerodynamics of it, we wanted it really unique. So from an aesthetic point of view, we wanted it to be the coolest van out there, right?
Yeah.
So when this drives down the road, the shape of it is to die for.
Yeah.
It is just, we get a lot of people sort of like drive past, come back, drive past,
Yeah.
and then give the toot and the thumbs up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we know it's a cool van, but taking some of that KK DNA into what we're building here. So there's a few design cues that we have as standard when we're looking at our whole product range. The first key one is there's no clutter at eye level. So when you sit inside there, you've got these panoramic windows all the way around, right?
Yeah, should we go take a look?
Sure. So some of the cool things on the outside here is we have the rock sliders on either side.
Steps?
Yeah, so they ended up starting off as a small step that was interior, that was sort of like poked up underneath there and just sat proud.
Yeah.
Feedback that we had from the market and some of the guys sitting there was just like, okay, well, what happens if we want to get to some gear on the top, right?
Yeah.
So what we did was we made them sliding on the outside, but it's ended up being like a gear table. So you're able to sort of like, you know, sit there on the side of the road,
Yeah.
do up your shoes, have a cup of tea, whatever it is, without getting chairs
Yeah.
out. Or alternatively, it's all load bearing, so you're able to get up onto the top,
Yeah.
onto anything that's on your rack.
So what they don't see though is that this slides in,
Yeah, it's rotated.
Right?
90 degrees. Yep.
and so this is what it used to be, but
Yeah,
they were
correct.
like, hey, can you give us more space?
They did, yeah.
And so you guys designed it so that this can slide out, giving you a seat, a step.
And
That
that's
is
in-
so cool.
That's in 4 points all the way around. So, we've
So it
got
does
that.
this all the way around, every
It
single
does.
one of these.
Yep, it does.
So cool. One thing that's very unique are these windows all the way around,
Yep.
which we do not see anywhere. That's
it
really something that you guys do really well. Let's take a look at that.
Sure. So what we've got is we've got a window that opens up in 3 spots. So like it's not pure double glazed, but it is secondary glazed. So what that is it's double skin on the actual windows that we use, attempting to sort of like control the environment from within in terms of heat or cold. That'll open up in 3 levels here. So we've got it at the first level there. Well, that's the second level. The first level is a little bit tighter. They do have privacy screens that'll come up. You set that at whatever height you want to, or they've got the midgie screens that'll come down as well. And basically, so like that'll create an area that's inside there. And the big thing, as I was saying on those design cues, is so like the first one was no clutter at eye level. And then the second part of that was we wanted to bring the outside in. So traditionally teardrops are pretty pokey, you know, so like they're nice and small to get around. We wanted something to be super comfortable for customers to get once they're there to, you know, you wake up to panoramic views all the way around, but you're not just getting that, you're getting airflow through the whole unit itself.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
And it
think
is
about
so like,
that.
yeah, really like living outside.
Yeah.
But we'll take a look inside,
Yeah.
I'll dive in. So there's enough space for 2 people in here, typically as a couple, right?
Yeah.
And then when we first started out, this was an 80-litre fridge freezer, which was a little bit down there, slightly smaller. These cabinets are exactly the same cabinets that we use in some of our other vans.
Yes, this is the DNA, here.
Yeah, that's right. And for us releasing a new product, we go into it with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
And that's because nothing's been redesigned here, right? The only thing that's new is the shape of the pod, but the technology we've been using on the Caravan
Right.
for 20 years. All of the cabinets are straight out of the Caravan. So this is out the Caravan, this is out the Caravan. All the bench tops and stuff that we use are straight out the Caravan, the technology.
Yeah.
The bed is out of our camper, which we've been using for 30 years.
Yeah.
The slide-out kitchen's out the Caravan, which would be the camper, which we've been using for 30 years. And the overhead cabinets are out of the cruiser, which we've been doing for 15 years. So there's actually nothing new in
Yeah.
what we're doing it, but just the way that we've stirred the cooking pot, right?
Yeah.
But a key thing, so like inside here, that's been a real hit is the table, which just pops out there.
And the idea behind this is somebody taking this, they can use, I mean, technically we could sit down and eat here.
Correct, yeah.
We
Play
could also
cards, work,
yes.
you know, so it's like all of that
How
side
cool
there.
is that in a teardrop to have like a table that we can,
To be able to sit.
gosh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
We're using the thermoformed acrylic bench tops in this as well.
Yeah.
And it would have been easier to go to wood, right? Kimberley's never used any wood in the construction of anything that we do. So the only timber that we've got in this unit is the bamboo drawer fronts.
Right, because the drawer itself, it's aluminum.
It's all aluminum.
Yeah.
Aluminum. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just this front plate that's wood.
That's the timber, yeah.
Yes.
We
Bamboo, rather, yeah?
Bamboo, yeah. Bamboo because it's sustainable. So we do have
Yeah.
like our environmental charter.
Yeah.
And so the whole floor and the foam that we're using in the construction of this is actually a recycled plastic bottle. So recycled plastic drink bottles, 100% recycled PET
Yeah.
foam. So depending on where it is on the van is depending on so like what grade foam it is. So down on the floor, it's a very dense foam, which is super durable. It's a slightly lighter foam that we use in the actual construction of the fiberglass. This is all vacuum infused, and it's a slightly thicker but a lighter grade of PET
So
foam.
we have the PET in the floor.
Yep.
And that has insulation value, yes?
It does, yeah. So there's insulation value in that. In the American market, we also add a layer of foam
Yeah.
into there to increase
floor.
in the floor as
So
well.
we have the PET and insulation in the floor.
Correct.
And then we have PET and insulation in all of the
In
cabin.
the whole body as well, yeah.
The ceiling, the walls.
The whole way around. So we typically try and class this as a built-in cooler, right? You're living in,
Yeah.
in Australia, we call it, you're living in an esky.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is like keep your temperature inside. But there's actually a key part of what we do and why we do it that doesn't get out there in the public, and that's sort of like the thermodynamics of the insulation inside. So it's not by accident that we're using the materials that we do. The conductivity of the thermal properties in the thermoformed acrylic, in all the alloy furniture that we're using, and in the insulation that we're actually using here is so like as soon as you start either cooling it down or heating it up, the heat is not just in the air. The thermoconductivity of the acrylic and the aluminium is up to 1,000 times more than timber. So what that means is when we turn on the heater or when we turn on the cooling, it starts absorbing all of that heat into the actual furniture and into the actual product itself. And therefore, it's like when you turn it off, you start releasing that heat, right? We're actually using 30% less energy to keep it cool or hot inside here.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. So that's something that's, doesn't get out there too often. What we're able to do is maximize the efficiency in terms of what we're trying to do with our off-grid capabilities.
Yeah.
From our side, and the easiest way to actually sort of like envisage that is that with your fridge, right? If you've got your fridge empty and you turn off the power, you open the door and the cold's gone almost immediately, right? Whereas like if the fridge is full of food and then you turn off the power, it'll be like 7 or 8 hours, it'll start thawing down. And that's the concept that we use and actually the materials we use inside the inside of our vans.
That's awesome. One of the things we talked about was storage.
Yep.
And so why don't you point out to me all of the storage that we have in
Absolutely. It's still a teardrop camper, esque, so limited by movement, but not by storage. So what we've got is in the galleyway here, so like if you had to carry larger tables, chairs, anything
we
extra.
can put it in here.
All just inside here because that's the first thing that you take out. Up in the front section here for the American market, you get access to a 130 litre fridge freezer that opens up all the way there. We've got the freezer up in the top there, but a really large fridge for a van of this size.
Yes.
Okay, so typical teardrops once again, you get the 2 little 30 litre drawer fridges. We've got a 130 litre front loading fridge freezer, and that's accessible from your door as well.
Yeah.
So you can just pop your head in here, which is your living area there.
Yes.
And you're able to get access to everything
So
from there.
that's actually really unique because I can't actually think of a single, we'll call it teardrop, that you have access to the fridge from the inside. If you think about it, everyone, you have to leave the cabin to go outside to get access to the fridge.
That's a good point.
To have that inside. And because we have vans that don't have fridges inside, and that's one of the things they're like, oh man, you can't have a fridge inside.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that on this, there's going to be a lot of people really excited about that. Going to bed at night, you get all nice and cozy, but you want to have a drink.
Yep.
but now you have to leave the trailer to go out to your fridge to get your drink. Not anymore. It's right there.
It's all inside here.
So cool. I love that.
And there's actually like enough room to safely have a, if you wanted to have a cup of tea in here or a coffee or whatever it is.
Yeah.
With the inverters and the size battery packs that we're using on here, you just put a little induction cooker on the top of your work surface here, and it works.
Yeah, they can.
Right?
How about that? They can just make their own little coffee here from the inside.
Yeah, so once again, you're not having to go out and use the toilet.
Yeah, because we have this outlet right here, 2,000 watt inverter up in the front.
It is, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So big surface area up here to be able to sort of like work with. So it is like a living area, right?
It is.
And this is bigger than some pop-top caravans, although we don't have that pop-top capability. So we've got basically your 2 drawers up the front, all alloy, and then we've got some really spacious drawers through there, down through there. We put the thermoformed thermo barrier up the front there, and then this as well. So we got some storage down.
This is for your awning.
That's the exterior.
Yeah.
What we also have, and it'll be a little bit hard to show it here, but we've got a big drawer that slides out from underneath here. That's accessible because we can actually pop the bed up as well.
And this will come out to about...
It comes out all the way.
Oh, all the way.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Huge drawer.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And this is what we've learned. When I first sort of conceptualized and we started developing it, we thought, okay, food will be in here, clothes will be under there. But it's actually so like as people have started using it, that theory's changed because you're getting clothes to wear the whole time. Whereas the food, if it goes up underneath the bed, you just have it in crates and then you're able to lift a crate out for meals or a crate out for bits and pieces or a crate out for condiments.
Yeah.
And we're still limited by space, but not convenience.
Yeah.
So there's big storage bin underneath there, but the real kick in this whole thing is the overhead cupboards. So the overhead cupboards, there's actually more space in our overhead cupboards. So that just goes, pop straight down there.
This king size bed here also has this part that comes up and turns it into a couch area.
Into a futon couch is what we've ended up calling it, right?
The futon couch.
So the futon couch there was once again, customer driven. So when we first conceptualized this, we were just like, oh, well, we've got enough space to comfortably sit in here and do whatever we had.
Yeah.
And then there was a customer of ours that said, hey, listen, just pop it like a futon in here. And then you've actually got a living area, not just a space. So that's been revolutionary in terms of trying to develop the functionality of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
But the overhead cupboards, so they're all aluminium as well.
Okay.
They're all bolted into an aluminium reinforcing up through the roof.
Okay.
So that's how we can take so much weight on the roof of these here, because the strength is all in the construction of it. But they go all the way back in there, so you've got full access into those, all the way around. So like the 2 drawers at the back, because of the shape down the back there, they go all the way. I couldn't even touch it. Right
that's
into
amazing.
the back there.
Yeah, that's so much. Can you see that?
And then what we've got from there is we've got some reading lights up on the head of the bed.
Yes.
We've got these little bottle holders there.
Oh my.
So once again, it's like the convenience of it.
These little guys here. Oh, they do expand, yeah?
They do, yeah. Yep.
So based on the...
Just depending on what you're trying to do. So typically, so like, people taking
that's so fun.
bottle of water to bed.
Fans.
The Sirocco fans, obviously, inside there. And then we've got the little pouches each side there to drop in the phone or drop in the tablet or for extra storage anyway.
Wow, this is so unique. Well, let's go outside and I think we can go to the front and talk about kind of the batteries and what's in there. And then we'll go take a look at the outside kitchen.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the last bit inside here is sort of like, customers have given us a bit of a point and said, okay, well, that's a great king size bed, James. How the hell do you make it? You actually make the bed from the windows. So you're able to easily make the bed from through the windows all the way down.
Huh.
So you're not crawling, you're not banging your head or anything. You're not like struggling, whatever. You're standing outside and you just make the bed.
That's a great idea. That's awesome.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so we're here at the front of the cube. So let's talk about what we've got in here, the heating, all that stuff.
Okay. So jumping into the front of the van, we've kept it pretty basic in terms of how we're running it. So it's a simple 12-volt system, but what we've wanted to do is to like give people the best of everything that they can possibly get. So it comes standard with 460 amp hour lithium battery that's Bluetooth connected, but it's also heated as well. This will take up to 2 lithium batteries, so 920 amps.
920 amps in this little...
Teardrop.
That's insane. That is crazy.
We're running DC chargers from the vehicle as you're driving along.
Yes.
So that'll pump power into the unit as you're driving along. We're running AC chargers and then a 2000 watt inverter. Isolators, all the protection that you need.
Yeah.
But you still end up with a bit of storage in there if you wanted to carry some sort of portable toilet.
Okay, and so what do we have going on up here?
So the hitches that we've got here, obviously an off-road hitch. What we do is we do either the McHitch or the DO35 or any of the off-road hitches. This is an articulating off-road hitch on the ball here, but typically most of our customers are taking the McHitch.
Yes.
We're running electronic over hydraulic disc brakes. So actually the handbrake is up here. That's the handbrake there. That runs through the actuator.
That locks up the tires.
That
actuates the disc brakes.
It does.
It's amazing.
We've got your Anderson charger for portable panels. That's all built in. So it's like if you had any portable panels here, as long as they're not regulated, plug them straight into the van and you've got additional power source coming in.
Yes.
Because it's like aimed at a slightly younger demographic than normal,
Yeah.
hopefully so like a lot of mountain bikers, is we have a bike carrier that goes on the front here that'll take 2 mountain bikes or 2 e-bikes up to the weight of probably around about 35, 40 kilos each. So up to 80 kilos on whatever it is. So I guess when you do your conversion, 80 kilos is times 2.5.
That's a lot.
200 odd pounds.
Yeah.
We've got room for a jerry can on the one side, so additional diesel if you were running your diesel-powered hot water system.
Yes.
And your diesel heaters, which all come standard in these units.
So the heat on these is unique. Most of the heat in the United States is propane. However, the water heater and the air heat for the unit is diesel.
It is.
Which is very efficient.
Super
accessible.
efficient.
It's a lot easier to get diesel from.
And safe.
You know? Yeah. That's
Super
awesome.
safe.
But the propane we're using just for the...
Propane's only for cooking in the outdoors. We're seeing a lot of people move to electrification of all their RVs.
Yes.
So, you know, there's enough power on this here to run 12-volt air conditioners, but also to run induction cookers on the outside or the inside. So it doubles up being multi-purpose, as we were saying. You can make a coffee or whatever on the inside, or you do your cooking on the outside.
You bring up a good point. So inside, nobody saw an air conditioning unit, but this has the option to have an air conditioning unit that this up to 920 amp hours can run your AC for longer than you'd ever need it. Because it's such a small space, you're gonna cool off super fast. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out because currently it's got a fan up there, but we can also have an AC unit wired into the battery system. And is that 2000 watt inverter sufficient?
Depending on what AC system it is.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to increase the efficiency of everything that we're doing, we're actually putting 12-volt air conditioners in.
Wow, so it's extremely efficient.
Yeah, so like what we're using in the, you know, so like typically in trucks and smaller vans, we're able to put into it because it's so insulated in such a small area we're trying to control.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So before we go over to the outside kitchen, this is one of the options. You know, everybody's always looking for more storage, and while this unit has tons of it, this rack up here, a lot of people have put firewood in here. Sometimes they put generators in here. There's a lot of things that people can use this for. This is a great additional storage space here for the Kimberleys.
And for the first time ever, we're also offering that with a lid on it. So if people wanted to put tools or whatever else.
And that's new, because none of them have had lids previously.
No.
So
that's something we've developed for customers,
Oh, I love it. Okay, let's check out the kitchen. So we're now at the outside kitchen here on the Kube. Now, the first thing that stands out is the size of this. This is one of the largest slide-out kitchens I've ever seen.
So the slide-out kitchen's super easy to pull out. We've been using this on the camper since about 2008. So once again, it's nothing new. We've been using this. It's tried and tested, absolute bulletproof. We've worked through the whole system, the convenience of it, the usability of it, and we've just put that into the Kube, right? So once again, so like around that whole ecosphere that Kimberley works on, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just improving what we've had. So we've got a huge stainless steel workbench at the top here, access to hot and cold water into your sink at the end here, and it's orientated that you're actually not what we call the cook's kitchen, so you're not actually stepping over each other. Somebody can wash the dishes from the end there without having to come into the prep cooking area. We do our cooking and our prep here. We've got storage for our cups, plates, mugs, bowls inside there.
That is pretty cool to think about though, because I know a lot of the kitchens, your just kind of in this quarter right here,
Yeah.
super close to each other.
Yep.
So the idea that one person can be here and one person, I mean, we could do so much.
Like a little
We could be-
family, right? A whole family can be
Oh
around
my
there. We've got the
gosh.
big breakfast bar off the front there,
And this
which
is-
doubles the amount of space that we've got.
And that's what
to
you're
work
referring
with.
to this as the breakfast bar?
Breakfast bar, yeah.
So I've never seen anything like
Yeah.
this.
So what we've got is so like little kids can sit on there if it's there, but otherwise so like mum and dad can do their food prep here, and then they serve off there. So once again, it's like you're keeping the kids out of the work area
Yeah.
or guests, and then they're working off that front section.
That's also something I hadn't thought of, is the idea of using this as a table.
Yeah.
As
yeah.
a family.
Yep.
Not just a prep space. So if they had like some stools or chairs there,
Yep.
this becomes an outside table.
Now,
Gosh,
all of
that's
this
so
does actually drop down.
Oh.
We've just got it quite high on the
Okay.
airbag suspension, right?
Okay.
So once again, we're running airbag suspension, which has the remote control on it.
Yeah.
And all of that there drops down, and we drop it down by another 2-3 inches. So it comes down to a real workable
Well,
height.
to be honest, I mean, me and you are both pretty short, and this
Yeah.
actually isn't too bad.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, but this can go lower, but that's great.
Yep.
That's great.
So we've got cutlery drawers there. We've got utensil drawers on the side here. We've got water filters in through the cold water here, and they're basically sort of like charcoal filtered and silver nitrite filtered. So once it comes out into your sink there, it is pretty much drinkable quality,
Really?
regardless of what you put into your tanks.
Oh my gosh.
Fire extinguisher up in the front here, just as safety.
Yeah.
Cooking options, so like which a lot of people ask us, is typically we have a dedicated drawer here for. What we're finding in this range is people love the portable cooking,
Okay.
because they can take it inside, but we can permanently mount either wok burners or the rafting high pressure cookers in here, or alternatively induction cookers.
So we have a few options then. We can get it installed in here permanently.
Yep.
So it slides out, or we can get one that's removable that we
Correct.
can set up here.
Yep.
Okay.
So removable, you can either set it up there, leave it in here, but it's
Yeah.
still portable. But once again, creating convenience and
Yeah.
versatility for everybody. An AC power point right here.
Okay.
So, it's like if you wanted to run kettles or induction cookers or anything. We've been exporting to the States now and working with you guys for a fair while.
Yeah.
Everything that we do is all compliant with you guys, straight from the factory.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually come here and then get rewired or anything like that.
Yes.
All of your 110 AC,
Yes.
all of your light compliance, all of your reflector compliance is all done by the factory in Australia.
Yes. And that's one thing I think it's important for people to know is the units that are coming to the United States were designed in Australia for the United States.
Correct.
And
Yep.
that's a lot of extra work. I mean,
Yeah.
because you guys have everything set up for Australia, but you have to redesign everything for the US.
Yeah, so we had the advantage with this unit here that when we were looking at the whole design of it, hence the double doors, right? We've been really, really lucky and maybe a little bit smart that the only new part that we've got for the American market is the kitchen slides out this side, not the
Okay.
other side.
Yeah.
So you guys have a unique part in this kitchen here. So it's been really, really easy for us to adopt, and it's not a pain in the butt for the guys to actually make an American unit in Australia. But we are looking at actually moving production of this in particular to America as we speak.
Yeah. So a couple of things, I guess maybe as we're looking at moving production to the US currently, time frame on getting a cube is roughly what?
Yeah, so including shipping, we're looking at probably around about 4 to 5 months. That gives customers the opportunity of customizing it. So we've got a couple of color options on the inside. You either go
interesting, yeah.
for the natural, which is the browns,
Okay.
or contemporary, which is the grays, and then you get the black bench tops or
Yes,
the
yes.
black door fronts or whatever.
True
the
to
case may be.
Kimberley, we have a binder with all the different
That's right,
options
yeah.
you can select, and they can have that same customization with the cube.
You can, yep.
Now, we talked about something earlier that's very unique to this. You guys have designed this a little bit differently in regards to winter capability.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more about what you guys have done differently on this.
With the winterization and the capabilities of your guys' extreme temperatures here, we've now been working with our American cousins for a pretty long time. And we've learned that when you guys say you go winter camping, it's winter camping, right?
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable what you guys will go camping in, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So with the cube, what we've had to do is really focus on being able to make sure none of your water grenades in any of your piping or any of your tanks. So what we've got is the super insulation on the inside, which is when you're running your heating, making the living area really, really comfortable, etc. Your water pump's internal, and most of the plumbing is all internal.
So really all that's going to be under the bed, yeah?
Under the bed, that's correct.
Yeah.
And then it's insulated under the bed as well, right? So
because
it's like
the floor's all insulated.
better. But once again, working with you guys and what we've learned over the years is that's like they're all fully insulated once they've got a shroud on them.
Yeah.
So the tanks are insulated, dropped in the shroud, but we also put a heater element into the tanks themselves. So I've got a little switch there that keeps the water nice and warm in there. And most of our plumbing goes straight from the tank into a bulkhead into the living area here. So as long as we feel like we've got either the heating going in either of those, which you typically would, with you guys knowing how cold it gets, then all of that should be protected for winterization.
Okay, so that was a great explanation of basically saying this is a 4-season camper.
Yep.
Because we have tanks mounted underneath that are insulated and have heating elements.
They do, yeah.
And then all of the water goes directly up into the trailer, and it's not strung underneath the trailer to be susceptible to freezing. So as long as we have our heating elements on inside the cabin and on the tank heaters, we should be able to really get to some really cold temperatures, which again, in this space is extremely unique to be able to have a 4-season camper. Now, for a lot of full-timers, that's what they want. And some people do full-time in units this size. To be able to have 4-season in this size is very unique.
It is,
That's really cool that you guys have made that conscious decision to design it that way.
It is, yeah. And it's not just from the cold, right? So like from the heat as well.
That's true.
How we've designed our solar panels that go on the top, they have an air gap underneath them, so we're creating a tropical roof. And we know that reduces the inside temperature by about 20% when we're trying to cool it. Add to that, that's like, you know, it's super insulated inside. If you run the aircon, within probably 10 minutes, you're really, really nice and cool.
Yeah.
And then because we're only trying to cool down a small area or heat up a small area, the duty cycle's a lot less. As I said, with the heat or the cold sinks, that decreases the duty cycle even more. And we're getting typically sort of like up to 7 days without the need to actually go onto any additional power just from our battery banks.
Okay. Now, to wrap this up, let's talk about some of the specs on the unit. The length of the trailer.
Yeah, so the length of the trailer, we're running about 17'4" from the nose to the base.
Right.
What we do is we give you a generous drawbar extension.
Okay.
Or there's a drawbar extension on there. We give you a generous drawbar extension because we know a lot of our customers are hanging a whole lot of gear off the back of their vehicles as well, spare tires, racks, whatever the case it is.
That's giving them more space.
And we give you a lot of articulation, and you know, this here is definitely one of those vans that you can drag up those real mongrel and gnarly off-road tracks. Right? As long as the vehicle will go there, typically this van will just tow directly behind you. So we've got that in our distance, so 17'4". It sits within your wing mirrors as well. So we're around about so like these six
just over 6 feet.
Just over 6 foot, in terms of the width of the van there. So you don't need extended wing mirrors, it's just going to sit nice and easy behind you. And then we had some key criteria in our height. So where we've sort of like, you know, had conversations with people where they go, listen, we want more interior height to sit in. What we've sort of like done with our research is we've gone, okay, well, so like the demographic that we're after is fondly known as dinks, double income, no kids. And, you know, for weekend getaways or longer term getaways, but to fit in a garage. So fitting in that garage there, it's like we've had a maximum height. So if you've got an 8-foot garage with the aircon and the solar panels, no problem at all. We just drop the airbags right down onto the base, and that should sneak into most garages as well.
With or without the rack, we're just under 8?
Yeah, we are, yes.
With the rack?
With the rack and the aircon. Just with the rack, we're probably a tad over 6'11".
Yeah. So the rack's really what gets us up to that just under 8.
Correct.
If we don't have a rack on the roof,
it'll come down a fair bit, yeah.
Okay. And the rack, by the way, was something we had talked about where there's multiple purposes behind the rack. We can use it to add a rooftop tent.
We can, yep.
Or we can use it to expand our solar.
Correct. Or we can use it to put kayaks up there.
Oh,
no problem
wow.
with kayaks, it's like we get sea kayaks will fit on there with the distance that we've got. It's all load bearing, stand-up paddle boards, surfboards, all of that gear will go on the top, no problem at all.
Oh my gosh. Well, James, is there anything else, like if you reflect on, you guys have been delivering these in Australia for the last year.
Yep.
What have been some of the things that people have talked about the most as they've owned these? What do they come back and they say, this is our favorite part
Sure.
of this caravan?
So probably the big part that we've really nailed is the big windows all the way around. Customers we've had migrate from prior brands of teardrop campers, and they've moved into the Kube and just gone, you know, it's not like a teardrop anymore.
No.
You've got a king size bed, so you could fit mum and dad and a couple of kids probably in there.
Yeah.
But for a traveling couple, there's tons of space to just really spread out, get super comfortable. You're not all huddled up in a little area. But bringing that outside in, the weather's inclement, you're not being forced to sort of like rug up and sit outside or whatever the case may be. You can sit inside, you still get the vistas, you know, down on the beach, it's $1 million view, or up on a canyon or whatever the case is. So the ventilation and the outside in, we've nailed. And then a big part of what we've done is that living inside, right? Your
galleyway in there is very, very unique. And then, like you said, if I open up both of these windows, I can get this amazing cross breeze all the way through.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, James, we are very excited. And hopefully we can start delivering a lot of these in the United States.
No, well, we thank the Americans for their support. It's really refreshing how much people love our products, and to see our products that are grown in some small town on the east coast of Australia, traveling around America and visiting some of the most iconic spots in the world is really humbling for us. So we thank all the Americans, and you guys at ROA have been fantastic.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, hey?
Well, thank you again, James. I hope you guys have enjoyed this introduction to the Kimberley Kube here in the United States. We're very excited. These are rolling out immediately, so please reach out with any questions. We have locations all over the United States where we'll be able to deliver these to you, making it a lot easier for you to get access to one of these units. Again, thank you, and we're so excited. Check us out. Feel free to call in, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see all the other videos we might be producing on the Kube here, and we hope to see you guys on the trails with us. Thank you.